me, when learning about the phrasing of Anunnaki many years ago, for me, I had to Zacharias Sitchin's work. He wrote a number of books, and he was the leading person that came forward with this theory that the Anunnaki were some type of people that came from another civilization, another world, to our planet. And really, it was his work that really took it forward throughout the whole world.
Look, of course, with Sitchin's work, a lot of it is theorising because he's trying to interpret the text the best that he can with what they're able to understand and with the level of consciousness he's trying to understand. So, in some way, you've got to look at both sides. You've got to try and connect the dots as well as look at the evidence. And I think he's spot on with some things, but some things he's not as well. And that's like, I think with all of us, we're just trying to do the best we can with the knowledge that we've got.
It's theorised that the Anunnaki, the advanced civilization, came here today, and we were here to mine, principally to mine gold, because the stories have it, if you believe it to be true, was that there was mined gold because their ionosphere, should we say, around their planet had diminished, and they wanted to replace that with gold, particles of gold and dust. Now, what is really interesting is that concept doesn't actually work. The concept of providing gold in a dust format around the ionosphere of an Earth or a planet like Earth would actually bounce radiation back. This is why NASA used gold sheeting around a lot of the landers. You'll see that on the Moon lander and the Mars lander. They tend to use a lot of gold sheet paper. It's like aluminium foil with gold. And that, because the reason you use that is because it radiates all that radiation back. It pushes it away so that it protects us from contamination in space. It's a perfect compound. And it is interesting that even just that theory, I mean, how would an ancient civilization even know that gold would work for that, even if it wasn't true? So you have to question, where does that knowledge even come from?
This has been a source of some confusion for me personally. I can't quite make sense of this. If the Anunnaki, as I understand, are a highly advanced technological race, very ancient, much older than we are, they have the means to get here from goodness knows where across the galaxy, then they don't need slaves to do their mining for them. They would have giant machines. These machines are far more effective than people. You don't have to go through this long, complicated process of bioengineering the local people to do your work for them. And they could probably create robots that would do it.
When you go into these ancient sites, when the tombs were raided in Egypt, we found that representations of statuettes and things like that of godly figures, always gold. Always gold. But the Egyptians had also had the capabilities of electroplating. It sounds absolutely ridiculous. We know that in Baghdad, they created batteries for electroplating. They knew that they could get away, they could trick people thinking this was a solid gold item when it was in fact gold covered. So the representation of something significant because it's gold coloured carried through, not just locally but all around the world. They all kind of had the same idea. Where did it come from? Why was it not nickel? Why was it not iron? Why gold? And of course that seems to go all the way back to the Sumerians and how the importance of gold. We still live in a society where gold is important.
Well, as far as Sitchin's work, I've read some of his work, but most of my information comes straight from the beings of that time, so I go by that. But it's very interesting. It does seem that there was a major intervention, quite a few, 450,000 years ago. The Anunnaki came here. They were looking for gold, and both for health reasons and to save their planet, supposedly. I really don't think they're returning on Nibiru because they've been here all along. They've been waiting for the right time to appear, and they actually came from ancient Lyra. So the Anunnaki, their origins come from ancient Lyra. And they're the bearded gods that we've heard about and read about, and almost every religion is based on this image of the bearded god. They even moved to Greece and became the Greek gods. And so whenever you have the bearded god, the stories about the bearded gods, it goes back to the Anunnaki.
Well, all I can say is, in 2008, because of being featured on the History Channel, they flew me to Boston to have my blood and medical work done by a Harvard professor his name was David Systrom, and it was revealed in that show that I don't have normal human blood. I know that sounds strange, but this led to Bill Burns, the host of UFO Hunters. He said, I think you guys are being prepared by a secret group behind the scenes helping you process what's happening to you, and you'll be given a course of study to help you put all these pieces together. Well, that happened in reality in the middle of 2008, and I came in contact with a group called the Light Physics Group, who was led by a gentleman named A.R. Borden. First thing that they did was supply me with a whole library of Zecharia Sitchin's work, and they said, in their own words, that he was more accurate than he even knew. And these people that are highest echelons of the NSA, they have access to ancient manuscripts and whatnot that we don't. So I take a lot of faith in their own testimony, but in my own contact with these beings, they're the ones that introduced themselves to me in the summer of 2008, and they said we've been known in the past as the Anunnaki. Because even I know a lot of people try to argue the point that Anunnaki isn't what Zecharia Sitchin says it is. Well, I can tell you I met them face to face, and they said we've been known as the Anunnaki. So it gives me a little bit of confidence behind his work, and I'm a fan. I'll just leave it at that.
The Earth's been colonized again and again. Some of the first colonies were the Anunnaki. There was actually an Andromedan colony here for a little while. The Naztec lines are part of that experience. The Pleiadian colonies of Atlantis and Lemuria or Mu, those are Pleiadian colonies. So the Earth's been colonized repeatedly over and over again, and people have had to start over as primitives due to wars and meteor strikes and pole shifts and things of that nature. So this has been going on for a long time.
His principles were that there was another planet which they came from, and the transition of this planet comes close to Earth every so many thousand years. And at that time, they visited Earth and may even visit again in the near future.
The hunt for Planet X has been something that's been going on for 100 years. Astronomers have been seeking this planet, either as a brown dwarf or something much smaller. The discovery of Pluto, for instance, was certainly something much bigger because evidence in the outer solar system suggests that something is out there. So you have these two strands. You have the mythological strand, which Sitchin puts forward to try and explain a lot of the sort of cosmology that was created by ancient myths. And you also have science, and the two, in my opinion, seem to be converging, and that convergence of ideas comes together in the Star theory. A month ago, a new discovery of one of these kite-about objects has created this excitement within the astrophysical community that as they say, a planet 10 times the size of Earth might exist beyond that zone. And of course, a planet of that size would fit what Zecharia Sitchin would have classified as Nibiru. So when you describe Nibiru, I tend to think of it in terms of the appearance of the planet in the sky, but it could be all the dark star system itself from which the Anunnaki visit us.
Where they do come from, sources that I've spoken to who knew about the Anunnaki in some detail, with personal acquaintance, personal witness, they never described where the Anunnaki really did come from. It's possible that they did not know. It is possible that this is not known. We don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, in the Bible it says that man was created in the image and likeness of God, and they should have said gods, because the genetic tampering, there was Neanderthal man, the Drago that was here, and more primitive man, and the Anunnaki added their genes to that to create a race to help them with their mining operations, because there's about self-preservation. And it was a win-win situation because the Knuckle Dragger got this huge jump in genetics and evolution, and they were very grateful for this. And so it wasn't so as bad as a lot of victims want to call it, a slave species and things like that. It's not typically that. it depends on which Anunnaki you're talking to, because Enki was involved in all this, loved his creations, and he saw them, almost as family, as his children in a way. And he had Enlil, who was the general. He was the warring god, and he wanted to see Enki's creations totally obliterated and the experiment, cleaned up, so to speak. So it all depends on which reference point you're looking at as to the behavior of these gods and reference points of the people that experience that behavior.
Even though a lot of people say we're created as slave labor, which is in one way true, because we were created to help them, but we were more like pampered pets. That there was no homeless, there was no starvation, we were truly living in Eden. And because of this, we were stagnant, and we weren't evolving at a quick enough rate to make us the most prepared cycle. So it was decided that they would help us or free will, even, because free will is really only the option to choose what is not divine will. Enki's mother side said, well, you can't just do this to a race that's never been tried before unless you're willing to go through it yourself. So the truth of the matter was, when they tried to incarnate a bloodline here, a hybrid bloodline, that had more chi, more life force energy available at a cellular level. So this, when it gets into what the History Channel revealed through the Harvard professor, is normal amounts of creatine kinase in the blood, which all of us, our brains release this, is about 25 parts per liter of blood, and it'll jump up to about 250 to 300 tops if there's been damage. And that happens because the brain releases creatine kinase to bring oxygen to facilitate healing to that wounded area. Well, what I found out from insiders is the amount of oxygen in the bloodstream equals how much electrical capacitance on a cellular level that your body is holding. So you can look at that as there's more chi or electricity available at a cellular level. So then they had a suitable vessel that they could incarnate into, and that was the Nephilim. So that's why the Nephilim is all part of the plan. It all saved humanity from the last age. And which is a whole different telling of what was given to us. One of the Christianity years, the Nephilim people going around, no, they actually said it in the Bible, it said these are the men of renown. That, people that did great things and helped humanity. It's truly just the investment to try to help from the inside.
Scientists coming forward and really scrutinizing as to where we come from. Those are two big questions. How did we get here? Where did we come from? Well, that's a real big question mark. And unfortunately, not many people have really got the answers. We've got all these theories and different things, but we do know science battling religion now that it wasn't simply the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve. Unless Adam and Eve represents places like Adam and Avalon and places like that. Because this is what you have to do with scriptures and biblical notes. Is that you've got to read in between the lines and see and kind of understand what are they trying to explain.
Now, my understanding is that again we're a mixture of many races from the start of the Star Nations, and this goes back long before 6,000 years. We're looking at probably 500,000 years, and I believe before that. So, what level was humanity at the time? It depends on which area of the earth we come to. Now, we see the cradle of civilization being Iraq, but we've got evidence now that man started a lot further before that here in Australia. And again, we've got Hebrew markings and things being found in America that predate the Hebrew stuff we know about in the Middle East and that area. So this is where the knowledge is still being found today, but I believe that humanity's been at different stages because there's been different experiments go on. So it's almost like, from my understanding, what the beings have said to me is that we're continuing the upgrade of the genetics because we're intermingling and interbreeding today here on Earth. So us, unknowingly, are continuing the experiment. And we're basically, from my understanding, what I've been told is that we're making a super race in the 3D realm, a superhuman race, which is all the star nations combined to create this body computer that's got many abilities that even those other beings that help create us do not have themselves.
So in ancient times, the Anunnaki did have sexual relationships with the humans, and the humans were already hybrids, and so they were jumped up, and there was more manipulation that went into the atom seed, all that stuff. They're very beautiful beings, and the Anunnaki did saw the Earth human to be fair and took them as wives, as talked about in ancient times, and they created the demigods, which were actually half Anunnaki, half human. And so it was kind of like they're already hybrided up to a very high place, and then they took them as wives, and they created the next level up. So these beings were very powerful because the human genome added to the Anunnaki genome created the demigods, which actually, some of them actually rose in evolution further than the Anunnaki. There's something that happens with that connection, or that splicing of the two. What's interesting is that Enki actually mated with an Earth human and had a son called Noah, that we know about in the Bible. Noah, when he was born, had white hair. He was glowing. The parents didn't know what to do with him. And so he actually transcended and went further in evolution than Enlil, who was the general warring god. And so there's a lot of jealousy and a lot of anger about that situation, and thus you have the story of the floods and things like that.
Well, I think this is a really fascinating subject because I think there's been a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of people say that the Anunnaki caused the flood, or in the Bible that God caused the flood to wipe out, the people who were heathens or whatever. That's not what the Sumerian clay tablets say at all. And if anyone attributes the flood as a direct result of Anunnaki influence, then they haven't read Sitchin's work, because that's not what it says. What it said was Anunnaki scientists seen that there was going to be a pole shift in the near future, and this was a natural cyclical process that happens on the Earth over and over and over. It's happened many times in the past, it'll happen many times in the future. So they realized that this was going to happen, which Enlil, who was in charge at the time, he did allow it to happen. He said, well, even then, they're like, well, we don't have the technology to lift off 400 million human beings who are on the planet at that time, so it must be God's will, and we'll just let them perish. Well, one of them didn't sit well, and that was his brother, older brother, Enki, because Enki looked at humanity as family.
Yeah, the Family Feud story goes way back, and it goes back to Enki and Enlil, and they had a lot of differences of opinion. And again, Enlil was the war god, he was the general, and there was a lot of kind of turf wars going on that happened here on Earth. And some of the people went back, some of the Anunnaki went back. The ones that stayed here for too long couldn't go back because they started aging very rapidly. Something happens if they stayed here too long. So, it's still happening to this day. These same turf wars are still going on. And it's probably where war originated.
It would seem that they're warring. I mean, if you look at the Vimana, the Indian scriptures, it talks about a huge war that took place. If you talk about biblical, the Bible that we know, go right back to the beginning. It starts off, there was war in the heavens. What does that actually mean? You go back to Mesopotamia and other places around the world. They talk about the same thing. They talk about the gods warring. And it does seem to show some evidence on the planet of ancient locations which seem to show that there is nuclear radiation there. Some type of radiation that is a manufactured radiation, doesn't seem to be natural. As if a nuclear bomb had gone off 50,000 years ago. It just doesn't make any sense. We're faced with all these issues today and asking, what is all that mean? What trying to make sense of it all is such a difficult job. But one thing, one commonality right through it all, is that there seems to be some type of war in heaven. that these parties were warring against factions, were warring against each other. Technological battle, because it's been described in biblical books and scriptures. In the Indian Vimana scriptures, it talks and shows images, paintings of these objects firing at each other, and rockets and all sorts of things. If we try to put it into our modern day concept, we could say there were warring factions, as there are warring factions on the earth. However, it would seem that it was worth battling over. Maybe humanity, maybe the earth. Maybe that was to win. And at the end of the day, I would think that most of scholars now are starting to question the factors as to what's that all kind of mean, where we're actually all coming from.
See, this gets into a deep subject because people need to understand. Enki himself, he was the firstborn son of the king of the Anunnaki, and his name was Anu. But Anu had a concubine, a female that was not of the Anunnaki race. So for the first time ever in their family history, tree, new blood came into the Anunnaki family tree. And so what happened was, during this time of Enlil, going to allow the pole shift to happen because they figured it was just God's will. Inky went against their own counsel and went to his mother's side, the elders, and asked, "Is there anything that can be done? You know, my race is going to let this beautiful race that has so much potential just perish." And this all became the Noah's flood myth. You know, you'll find out that most of the stories in the Bible are actually retellings of the Sumerian clay tablets, but they're just in more detail.
Some of the Anunnaki are here to help humanity. Uh,
If you've ever dealt with a hanging belly, love
As we dance to a beat that seems out of time, ask yourself, can you really dance to my beat?
Take the blue pill, story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is not a good town for psychedelic drugs. One of the things you learn after years of dealing with drug people is that you can turn your back on a person, but never turn your back on a drug.